A man known to the world as Christian Craighead stopped a terror attack in Nairobi, Kenya on January 15th, 2019, showing that good will always triumph over evil. Gentlemen, I know you're on the toilet. I know I caught you. You know I caught you. Or maybe you're drinking your coffee, eating your beer, whatever you may be doing. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section down below. I actually love reading those comments. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do. My brain was doing good. It had ridges and lines before, but when I read you guys' comments, my brain gets smoother, so thank you. Now, of course, we gotta thank the sponsors of this video. Sponsors such as Americana Pipe Dream Apparel, fantastic young Zoomers getting after it in the milsurp space. I love those guys very much. They're very good to me, and they'll be very good to you. So a link for them will be in the description down below. Go check them out, show them some love, let them know that I sent you. Ask for a hug and a kiss. We also have to thank American Hartford Gold, two American sponsors, I guess. So a big thank you to American Hartford Gold. Why would you use them? Well, in today's climate where the dollar is being contested on the national stage, another option to invest in could be a good thing for you or could fit your financial needs. I believe in brass and lead, and now American Hartford Gold apparently believes in silver and gold. So go check them out. They have some excellent options for getting set up financially. The link for them will also be in the description down below. And if you sign up with them on your first order, I think they're gonna give you $5,000 for silver for free, which sounds too good to be true. So check it out. Now, let's get back to the video. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, the Talking Balaclava. Today we are going over the guns and gear of the most infamous Christian Craighead. So before we dive into the gun, I wanna go over the kit real quick. So I wanna address this first and foremost. Oh, let me take my balaclava off. I'm not that guy, pal. I'm not that guy. You know what's funny about the balaclava is it actually feels really good when you're in the sun and it gets like sweaty. So before we address the firearm, which is honestly the most interesting part of the video, we gotta talk about the kit and the gear. Disclaimer, the kit itself is not 100% clone correct, which I know is gonna make some people really mad, but I was going down the journey and I was like, you know what? How autistic do I want to get with this? And I realized that some things are just going to be annoying to get. I'm not going to shell out money for certain things, and that's where we're at right now. So let me go over the kit and I'll talk about what I don't want to buy and what I'm okay with buying. So front of the carrier, we have the lap panel with a Blackhawk saw pouch, and then we have a parachuter dangler with just it's like a bush combat, it's a bush lore condor knife. Cheap knife, willing to use and abuse it. It's a functional tool, right? Now, I wasn't willing to shell out for the actual TG knives. Now, the TG knives is the one that Christian Craighead actually had, but those are going for like 700 plus bucks. And for a knife like that, I'm gonna be real with you, unless I'm getting it for free, I'm not gonna buy. I'm sure it's a very awesome knife. Wow, the knife, I'm sure it's great. I'm just not willing to spend that kind of cash. So in the Blackhawk pouch, I personally just threw my IFAK and just a tourniquet in there for now. If I had some other stuff to throw in there, then I would. On the back of the carrier, we have the AVS pack. Now, the AVS 1000 pack, that's what it's called, right? The AVS 1000 pack is highly regarded. It is an awesome piece of gear. Now, you're probably wondering, is this a backpack mollied onto the kit? And I'll take it off for the B-roll and show you, but no, it's actually like its own little entity, and you can throw a plate inside of the pack, and it integrates with the AVS setup. So, really cool thing. I think Cry is doing an awesome thing right there. And then on the belt line, we have the Riggers belt. We have some HSGI pouches, an S-Tac pouch, a kangaroo style pouch with a pistol mag on top of it. T-Rex Arms dump pouch, hold my Nalgene right there. On the right side, we have the Safariland holster, drop leg with a little harness for holding onto your thick thighs. and we have a frag pouch back here. Now, on the Beltline kit for Mr. Craighead, he had the frag pouch actually forward on his kit in front of his pistol, but I didn't really have the real estate for it how I have mine set up. Different body types, right? And then I don't have the pouch that he has on the back, and I don't run my rigger's belt with harnesses. So that's the gear out of the way. Not 100% clone correct, but I wanted to get it into the ballpark because not only do I like the look of it, I think it's pretty functional. I love the idea of not just protecting my manhood, but also your femoral arteries that run in your legs. I like that option. I feel much more fearless if I know that my junk is protected. So I like that there was a lap panel. They're not the most convenient things. They're not the comfiest thing to wear. There's something to me like my X factor is, as long as I'm not gonna get shot in the dick, then I'm gonna be okay. So, covers that. All right, now with tactical gear covered, we gotta talk about the clothing. I know it sounds super nerdy if you're just like, what's going on? If you're new here and you have no idea, welcome to gun culture. Sometimes we have to nerd out about the small details. So with the clothing, there was this interesting thing that happened with the whole event itself. When this happened in 2019, there's already a culture of cloning stuff, cloning kit, cloning gear, cloning tactical looks. This already existed, so there's already forums out there and people out there that would do research on other military units that popped up and they'd wanna match the look of that. So there is this thing called cloning. Pretty much quickly happened that guys were starting to look at Mr. Craighead's kit, but they didn't know exactly what to get to because down the road, eventually Mr. Craighead would create an Instagram and address a lot of the kit that he had. Now I want to give a huge shout out to the Reptile House. The Reptile House was one of the first in the game to put together a very comprehensive list of everything that was on his person on that day. Good shout out to them. They did an excellent job and that was an excellent go by. So that's where a lot of this comes from. And it would get updated as Mr. Craighead came out and talked about what he wore on that infamous day. Going over that, right? That's where a lot of this comes from. If you want to reference all that, go check it out. I'll even put a link in the description down below for you to assess. So for the clothing, he actually had a Fjallraven shirt. It was a gray that he wore so much it started to look purple. He had Armani jeans, which is pretty freaking gangster. It's bougie jeans, right? And then he's rocking some La Sportiva boots. They're low-cut boots. He has got a Garmin watch. The most infamous part that I even would steal is the Arc'teryx Leaf balaclava. The best balaclava to ever exist. Good luck getting them. They're annoying to get now. Not impossible, but they are annoying to get because Arc'teryx was like,
why are we selling so many balaclavas to civilians? This is not a good look.
So that's my guess. I could be wrong. That's the kit, right? Now, as far as a handgun goes, I believe he had just a stock Glock 17. It looks like he doesn't have any suppressor size heights on the pictures and then no optic of any kind. Did you think he has a flashlight on there? So he's running X300 on the gun. Pretty simple, pretty easy, tried and true and reliable. And then we get to the rifle. The rifle is the coolest part of any kit, right? What is a man without a rifle? This rifle isn't mine, and I don't want to butcher too much of the details. This belongs to a dear friend, Otter Weapons, works on Instagram. Go check him out. Joel, get over here. What better person to talk about their rifle than the owner themselves? Thanks for coming on to the channel, man. I've followed Joel. We've been following each other for a while now. He does awesome clone setups. If you're wondering, wow, what a cool clone setup that is. This is actually another clone setup. I would call him a general of the Clone Wars.
General Kenobi.
Sure, I could take that.
I mean, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So run us through this rifle real quick, man. This is your gun that you own. Should we trade rifles?
Yeah, let's trade rifles.
Trade skis, dude?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, fun,
little
cool.
CQBR for you.
Thank you. Can I have this?
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, man. What a nice guy.
Like everyone, I saw what happened in Nairobi and I was completely enamored with the kit setup because it's the first time operationally that the Western world got to see the Colt Canada C8. British Special Forces don't run the traditional bullpup. They've got their own setup. So they contracted through Colt Canada and it came in two configurations, the 10-inch and the 15.7-inch. Christian was running the 10-inch gun and that's what we have here. These uppers, you used to be able to get them. And then when Canada said no more, then I think the last one sold for like $8,000 or $9,000. I took it upon myself to clone one. The only thing that's really kind of different about mine is it's not full auto and the suppressor. The original suppressor was a Surefire FA556 SA. This is a 212. From my Surefire rep, almost the same suppressor. The FA was just sold to police and military. You got the Surefire 620, the LA5, and then a fun story about the Romeo 4T. The gun originally was issued with a T2, but somebody at SIG before Christian's push handed him the Romeo 4T, and that's why it's on the rifle. Coming back, ambidextrous controls, got the LaRue riser on the Magpul CTR, ergo grip, and that's pretty much a breakdown of the rifle. It's really fun to shoot.
It's a very fun gun to shoot. Gun handle is really nice.
It does, right?
Very nice. Handles very well, like most short guns do. They're very comfy to wield, and it just works inside of tight spaces, and you still have that firepower of the 5.56. I will say, I'm curious what bullets, that sounds kind of cheesy. I'm curious what rounds, that sounds even cheesier. I'm curious what rounds Christian was using when he went in there, because 5.56 out of a 10-inch, we all know by now, not optimal, right? It's literally half of what is the optimal. It's not optimal for 5.56, right? So I'm curious what they were using and why they thought, hey, ballistically this would be good to go. I had this theory with, maybe with him being such an experienced soldier in the mission set of what the UK and the US are doing in Kenya, they're being attached to soldiers. Their mission set is not as really to be like, maybe not to be as direct action as one might assume.
More of a support or training role.
More of a support and training, and they have this gun set up to where it's like, it's almost like a personal defense weapon, and then you're expected the Kenyan troops to kind of, they're the ones that have way better firepower outputs. I mean, if you look at the photos of that day, there's guys running around with Galil Aces and 308, you know?
Jumping out of the truck with Scar 17s.
That's right, those guys got some firepower, and Christian over here has an anemic setup of the 10-inch 5.56, right?
Going up against guys with AKs and RPKs.
Going up with guys that are heavily armored and highly motivated. You know, this isn't the optimal setup if I had to, but damn, it's better than having just a handgun, you know?
Well,
and in the hands of an SAS operator with more military experience than I've been alive, I'm pretty confident in that guy.
It's a really fun gun to shoot, and it was a fun clone to build, not for the faint of heart, unless you hate money. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. So that's why it's one of those really cool pieces to get on the channel and show off. Big thank you for letting me.
Absolutely.
I mean, just coming out and taking the time out of your own busy schedule and coming onto the channel and showing it off, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, and like I said, following you for a while, being a fan, like being out here it's twofold for me. I get to show off something I've done, and then I get to be part of the internet lore.
It's art amplifying
absolutely,
art.
Absolutely.
Well, here, we'll kick you off for a second. I want to talk about what it was like to shoot and run around with from a end user perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Saya.
much. Absolutely.
Thank you, Saya. Now, I remember seeing this setup when it initially came out, and like you guys and like Joel mentioned, being confused by the setup itself. Who puts a pressure pad in front of their aiming devices, or their laser aiming devices especially? In America, we have a big culture, and I'm sure like everywhere else for the most part, you have your IR aiming device in front of your pressure pad system. Seeing this and then actually using it actually makes a lot of sense. So running and gunning it today, it wasn't too bad getting a grip on the front of the gun when I started shooting. So we were shooting a lot of rounds, and I don't know if Christian was shooting a lot of rounds that day or if he burned through a bunch of mags at once, but the gun gets extremely hot. I did have to yield to a glove later in the day. Getting a grip on the gun, it feels fine. I feel like I got a lot of leverage holding onto the light, pressure pad setup, and then if you have to move to the IR laser, moving your hand back, you have access to the laser. We even ran the visible laser indoors, and it worked really well. I actually liked it a lot because I could just click it, keep it on, and I could just scan. And what you have to imagine about that day also is that it was a very long day. He shows up, coming blind into a situation, a very high intensity situation. 5 terrorists showed up, 1 killed himself with a vest, the other 4 split off into 2 teams, and they are highly armed and highly motivated. They are willing to die for this belief that they have. So you're coming into that situation completely blind, and now you have to work with the local forces to solve it and save innocent lives. What you have to think about too is the human factor of getting tired. After doing CQB in a building all day, which I will say, even though it's not an optimal 5.56 setup, I think this is an awesome CQB setup, but you're doing a CQB all day in this building, in this complex that he's at, you're gonna get pretty freaking tired. So maybe not even have to get a cheek weld anymore, but you can just activate your visible laser, and that's how you're scanning, because you're just going and going and going. I could see that being a real big plus. And of course, yet again, all hypothetical, probably didn't play out that way, or it could have. So I'll wait for the movie and the book deal. LaRue stock. It seems like a weird thing to have a riser with this Romeo 4T, because the Romeo 4T doesn't look like it's that high of a riser mount. I know we have a much more trending of very high skyscraper mounts now, but at the time there wasn't that trend just yet. So the LaRue mount actually works really well when you get a cheek weld. I can get on the LaRue mount and I can see my dot very easy, much easier than I thought. So it's one of those things that you don't discover it until you get time behind the gun, and this was a revelation. That's the right word, right? Revelation? Cool. And then another big important thing that I didn't realize would be so important, this rubber texturized grip down here. So if you're running the gun and you get tired, or you want to bring your hand towards the rear and use the mag well, or any sort of capacity like that, that rubber actually acts as a nice heat guard from the heat of that monolithic rail. It all comes together to work out rather nicely, I think. Running and gunning with it felt good. It felt comfortable. Is it the most optimal setup technically? No. But what I do think it has, hold on, is that squeaking too loud? But what I do think it has is just sex appeal and vibes through the roof, baby. This thing is an awesome setup. I remember seeing it and I thought, yeah, it may not be optimal, but that thing has a lot of freaking soul. And the British are weird, and they're not Americans, and I love my Americans, and I love my Brits, but we have this gun culture, the civilian market here that has just trialed and errored stuff so much, and then the military usually comes to civilian market for firearms, and the Brits don't really get that. The Brits have to go hit up other countries or other contracts or look elsewhere, and they don't get this in-house development of firearms culture, this X factor that we Americans have. So I won't hold it against them too much, but this setup is still freaking cool. The military side of things, I think the Brits are very professional, squared away from what I can see. So I also got to mention we got a Frank Proctor Sling rigged up here. The Sling actually works really awesome. On the lower, they have the worst Magpul ring mount for a Sling, super noisy. I don't know why they would go with that. I think it's a bad choice, bad call. And then ammo used is gonna be the AAC 77 grain, the ammo sponsor of the channel. This guy's got a fantastic segue. Wow, what a segue. Big thank you to those guys for sending over ammo and being the main sponsor for all the ammo on the channel, so I appreciate them greatly. And the 77 grain worked phenomenally in this short barrel. So here's the question. If I had to change the setup, what would I do? And the problem is, it's really kind of weird. Pretty much, I guess the big thing is swapping the light and laser. So what I mean is pushing the laser forward, putting the pressure pad behind, and then maybe a different light, more modern light, especially for like a mod light or a Surefire dual fuel, the ones that can flip to the side, that mounting system, and then you could butt it up to your IR light. So I would probably do that, but using this now, I kind of like this setup, if I'm being honest, especially with how notorious the look is. I don't know if I would change it if I got my own. Personally, I'd probably just copy the Craighead setup because now it's a vibe. Now it is cemented in clone lore, it's cemented in gun lore, it is going to probably be pop culture lore soon if Hollywood can get this kicked into gear. I did want to kind of get a little bit heavier with the subject in the sense that the gun is really cool, the kit is really cool, Mr. Craighead made all this stuff look awesome, especially with the balaclava, but it is only amplifications of what man is capable of, right? Guns and gear, despite what the politicians and what the media says, they're just tools. They have no spirit, they're just objects. And objects are given life by people. They are used by people. People are moral. People have a soul. And whether you're good or evil or however you use tools will be dictated by what you are. And there's no question that good men with firearms, heavily trained, heavily disciplined, are able to stop bad men with firearms no matter how motivated they are. And Christian that day had the right tools and right gear in place to take on that threat. You probably wish you probably had like a bazooka, you know what I mean? He was probably like, dang dude, I wish I had like a 240 Bravo, you know, but yeah, what he had. And Mr. Craighead's actions that day were righteous. They were good, despite his superiors telling him not to go. They said, hey, do not go in there. You're not allowed. You're gonna get in trouble, yada, 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 whatever they told him, right? Whatever British things British people say. But he went anyway. Thankfully, he went anyway. Because whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord, send me. He answered that call, knowing that he could have possibly died, but innocent life was on the line. What he had, thankfully, was a good set of tools. Tools that amplified his skill set. Now, Christian's actions that day were heroic. There is something to be said about the culture that he comes from being in the SAS. In that military culture, they have what is called a silent professional. It's not like the Navy SEALs where you go write a book deal later, right? Him being notarized and recognized for what he did, as well as going against the direct orders of his superiors, kind of would make him an outcast amongst his military companions in that sense, which is a big bummer because you would think actions such as that should be rewarded. The reason I bring that up is that though you may be doing something right, though you may be doing something just, you will also face repercussions for it. Repercussions that aren't totally justified, but due to the bureaucratic systems in place, they're going to happen. That's something you must consider, but when innocent life is on the line, are you willing to pay that price? Now, I was really excited to do this episode. If I'm being honest, this is a topic near and dear to my heart, and thank you guys for watching, for getting this far into the video, and a reminder that all it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to do nothing. Gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know if you would change this setup, if you would dare change the setup of a man that's in the SAS, a man that has a longer military service than I've been alive, or probably than you've been alive, if you're a young Zoomer. If you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, merchandise, Patreon, are both excellent ways to support the channel. As always, gentlemen, stay easy, stay breezy. I'll catch you on the flip. Who is that? Very moto. Thank you, Bible. It'll do, as long as you don't kill Colton. Ready, Colton? Yep.
Ah, gotcha.
I'm sure it's a wonderful knife. I'm sure it's a very, ooh, almost stabbed myself. Did you hear that? Sounds like another plane. Goes to jail. Was that good?